However, on to slightly happier subject matter. The Last of Us has now come out. Yeah, the zombie apocalypse that destroys humanity and subjects the survivors to abject misery. That is a step up from Velma.
Yeah.
But I suppose we should do like a little, I don't know, like initial impressions, like from a little round table of everyone here. You know, did you enjoy that first episode, and what's your feelings on it? So
What's our word limit?
right,
6.
More, it can't be long. Like I'll time you.
Can't be long.
You've got 30 seconds to convey your thoughts succinctly. So I will give you that 30 seconds. Go.
Am I first?
Yeah, I'll let you go first. We'll go clockwise.
Okay, I thought it was good. I thought they did a good job of adapting the show. I thought they made changes that were really neat, and you know, there's a lot of changes in that I don't necessarily agree with. Also, there's a couple of contrivances I'm not happy with. Maybe changes they should have made to maybe make the show a little bit better. I thought the acting was serviceable to good, if not great, in very small parts. I thought that maybe the setup that's not in the game, where they talk about the cordyceps, I thought that was a really cool tone setter. I thought it was a neat bit of horror that was involved, and yeah, okay, thumbs up.
Yes! And you did that with 5 seconds to spare. I have made the long man short.
Fantastic.
I have done what no one has done in the whole history of YouTube. Little Platoon, what was your impressions? Because I think you came into this not having played the game, so...
Stopwatch on. No, I'd never played the game before, and I was underwhelmed by episode 1. I didn't hate it. I thought it was serviceable. I just thought it started with a reasonably intriguing premise, which it then went on to rush because it did the cop-out of giving us the pre-introduction in the 60s, which informs the audience exactly what's going on, which means it doesn't have to spend as much time as it really should be spending on the actual setup, then rushed it through with plane crashes, and then fell into vaguely kind of generic post-apocalyptica. It wasn't terrible, but it just didn't really do much for me.
Fair play.
30 seconds exactly, by the way. I had
think
my stop.
you are. Yeah, that was bang on. Melanie, your thoughts?
My thoughts are that it wasn't bad, and I think considering the TV shows that we've been getting lately, it's a lot better than most of what's out there. But compared to the game, it's very underwhelming, especially with the character portrayals in general. I think the acting is amazing and the overall quality is great, but it just doesn't have the same charm as the game. And I don't like what they've done with Joel as a character overall. So overall, I'd say like decent, but not great.
Okay, fair play. Rags, what about you, sir? What's your thoughts?
For a TV show that's based off of one of the most overrated video games of all time, fucking sue me. I liked it. I thought it was quite good. I thought generally it followed the game's premise pretty closely, considering that it's a TV show based off of a video game, probably to where I would call this the most faithful adaptation of a video game IP into a show that I've ever seen. I thought the acting was generally good all around. There was clearly work put into the dialogue and character interactions. It's a very believable premise that I think was set up well, and I'm interested to see more, and I'll definitely be checking it out as episodes release.
Nice. Okay. And Az?
I liked the acting and I liked the world design. Marlene, however, was the only character that felt like the actual character they played in the game.
Yes.
Joel and Ellie are absolutely cosplayers comparative to the game version. Was too much unnecessary bloat. They said a paragraph when they could have just said a sentence to describe stuff. Very mid and over bloated.
Okay.
Yep.
I think you did that with about 5 or 10 seconds to spare.
Yeah,
so
we
fair
followed
play,
your
sir.
crazy rules, Drinker. Now you have to.
I have
All
got
right, okay.
38
Wait,
seconds,
I've
dude.
got,
I know how to fucking cram it.
That's what she said. All right, I'll go. Overall, I think it's a reluctant thumbs up for me. I've got some reservations about some of the character choices that they've done. I think I like Pedro Pascal as Joel a lot more than I expected to. I think his writing, though, is perhaps a little bit more passive than than he was in the game. It seems to have cast Tess in a more like senior role to him, which I kind of wasn't expecting, and I got the weird impression that she's going to be in the story for a lot longer than she was in the game. Not sure about the actress that's playing Ellie. There's something weird about her face. Like, all her proportions just seem a bit weird and off. And I can't shake the feeling that she's just the Lady Mormont from Game of Thrones all over again. and yeah, again, it tries to assert that she's like more intelligent than him and
Yep.
more savvy than him. But overall, I think it's a pretty good adaptation of the game. I like the intro. I like the world that they've created. Overall, it's got promise. And I probably went over there slightly, but that's
Wow,
my
long
thoughts
man.
so far.
This could be one of those incredibly sort of pointless and dumb questions, but how much of your response to it, generally, panel, reaction to it, is based on it being the video game adaptation, and how much would you have been less interested, if at all, had it not been adapting a much-loved, or until recently much-loved video game?
It's a good question.
From a personal level, absolutely is affected by the video game. I thought the show did the set pieces from the video game very well indeed, but you're literally just taking the source material, which was really good, and
Yeah.
adapting it. So to actually fuck that up would have taken something special. The stuff that they added, to me, added unnecessary bloat. Unlike Rags, I actually, or maybe yourself, sorry, I actually didn't like the slow open. I didn't like the slow burn with Sarah.
Well, I did like it, so
I liked the way that the game literally threw you into it very quickly and
I agree.
put you off your balance. It didn't
Yep.
allow you to settle. So when Sarah is actually killed, it's an absolute shock because you're thinking Joel's going to get away with his daughter, and then we're going to get a story of revolving around that. But no. And so the whole having Sarah around for longer, I think the actress was great, by the way. I think she was really good. But I don't think it added anything, certainly for me. But I am very aware of the video games.
Right.
And yes, if I hadn't played the video game, I would be coming at the show from a different angle completely.
See,
Right.
I didn't mind that slightly longer intro just because I think it's okay to let the audience tune into this world a little bit before you start destroying it. And I think just to watch the slow kind of collapse of things, just starting off with little, things on the news, that sort of thing. And then the police cars going by, and then the choppers going overhead. There's the growing sense of tension that something's very, very wrong. And then the TV, failing, and then that's when everything just goes to shit. So I didn't mind that necessarily, and I think it was all right to let us bond with that character a little bit before they killed her off, because she did get a decent chunk of screen time, which I thought was, for me, it was okay. I didn't mind that.
All right, now it's my turn to do the positive end of it.
because I liked it
Okay.
too.
Well,
So-
Drinkers was quite positive.
No, his was more neutral to positive. I'm
Okay,
gonna go
okay.
further positive, right? That's this show's about. It's about an echo chamber. Okay, we got to get this sorted. So I like it a lot because I think it did a really good job, and it's compared to what you get in the game, it's a different experience. What we get here is she's essentially our POV character, and we get a normal world for a decent chunk longer. Much more classic way, at least in my familiarity with destroying a world, like Drinker kind of brought up. But I think it's a particularly good move to have so many scenes that are framed from her point of view so that we can get comfortable with the idea that we're going to be seeing the world fall apart from her POV to then wipe her out. Driving you into it straight away, providing that sort of discontent of like, well, what the fuck is going on in the game? I consider it a different approach. I don't consider one better than the other. I appreciate the emotional value of what those experiences can drive, but
Especially because one's a video game. So starting it off with a lot more faster pace, I think it owes itself really well to a game.
Yeah, and I appreciate seeing her in school, seeing her have a meal with her dad, seeing her interact with the neighbors, and then there's just those tiny details. Even the person in school with their hand shaking, just like, that's kind of weird. The feeding the old lady, right? When we know that the cordyceps they get infected, like everyone gets infected via the food, I think. So it's just dropping these small things as we move on, and then everything goes to shit. I enjoy as well. You have in the game, right, that Joel kills like the first zombie, I think, in front of his daughter, and it's quite a shock, and like they're both trying to reconcile. Well, this is like we see, as much as that does happen in the show, her first interaction hardcore is like alone in a house with people bleeding and dying, and it's just like it's a really harsh intro, and then her dad comes in to save her. I still think that's a harsh juxtaposition. It's a jarring experience, and then we get all the sequences, like you said, from the game that I think are really well done, until she gets killed. Which again, they just seem different as approaches to me. I quite like a slow burn to build it up and cut her off, or a harsh jump into an environment that's very juxtaposed in terms of like, oh, chill. Because you get that scene, right, where she gives him the watch in the game, very calm, very warm, and they rightfully copy a lot of it into the show because, to be honest with you, that's what we're looking for, right? We want them to do that. We want them to treat it with respect and actually use the good content where it is.
Yeah.
But this time around, we just have all this backup as well in terms of establishing the world before it falls apart. I just think these are two different ways of doing it, and I like both of them.
I think they can both work. I didn't like the fact that it was like a crashing aircraft that took out their car. Like, because I'm sure in the game, did they not just get like T-boned by a truck or something
Right,
like that?
yeah.
Like
I think so,
from
yeah.
a fleet.
See,
It's
this is
weird.
the bit that I found unpleasantly jarring, and by unpleasantly I mean I don't think it worked narratively. So I love the slow build-up stuff in any other context. It's Day of the Triffids, John Wyndham, even The Walking Dead has it. Invasion of the Body Snatchers, which I think it probably takes quite a lot of inspiration from, given the fungus that infects people slowly. You get all of that background world building and the slow sort of passive building of suspense. Even Shaun of the Dead does that really well. I love that kind of thing. And I think it did it really, really well, right up until the moment it decided, right, it's time for us to actually get on with the main story now. So we're going to planes are crashing in the streets, and that's about 12 hours, I think, isn't it? Well, not even that, because she goes to bed, and then this all kicks off. So you've got very, very slow world building, very slow building of passive tension, and then all of a sudden, time for stuff to happen, so let's have all the stuff happen at once, which you don't get in any other work which actually exploits that narrative device well, in my opinion. I don't think Invasion of the Body Snatchers, for example, doesn't just jump you into high-octane action on a whim. Day of the Triffids doesn't do that. Even The Walking Dead doesn't really do that. The Walking Dead actually builds it into the world more sort of diegetically, in the sense that he's been in bed and unconscious for a very long time, which explains the state of the world that the actual show is mainly set in. Whereas this is just very slow build-up, very well done, well orchestrated, takes its time, and then bang, everything's gone in one go. Which, like, is that even how a fungal infection could conceivably work?
It's almost like everyone who was infected with this fungus was on a timer, and like they all just like their alarm clock just went off like within the space of an hour in this.
It does seem like
night.
that's what they want us to think, and of course,
It
having
happens
a
very
sleep
quick.
between those moments means that we do jump from a level of intensity to a much more significant one. I think 27 days later, and as you mentioned, Walking Dead, both of those are characters waking up from a coma, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that everything can. Well, and to be fair, when they wake up, it's post-apocalypse time. In this, it's the beginning of the apocalypse almost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think going back to the question about the game, for example, to me, the game tells the story better in every way so far, most especially with the character portrayals and also the chemistry among the characters. One of the absolute worst things I'm seeing in this show so far is how they've turned Joel into a much more passive guy. And in the game, he's just like, he's this Texan, just very masculine, strong-willed guy. And right out the gate, even with his daughter, he's not even in much of a fatherly role. It's just the whole dumb dad trope, dumb dad, smart daughter trope. All of the women don't respect him. He's looking at Tess as his authority figure, which did not happen in the game. While she did make decisions and help convince him of things, it was just that, convincing him. And then he decided, oh, this is the best route. Let's go ahead and continue with the mission, for example. And so we're seeing, if it wasn't for just like two moments, one when crap first hit the fan with the outbreak and him taking more charge and protecting, doing what he could to protect his daughter and all that, he did take more charge there. And then at the end, when he goes ham on that guard, he took some charge there. But other than that, no. And not only that, but I don't know if it's the Texan in me right now with me living in Texas, but I feel like there was a very deliberate attempt to just remove guns as much as possible. Because in the game, Joel, he gets immediately his first reaction, like any Texan man would, oh, let me get my gun. And he didn't do that. This time he carried a wrench while his brother had a gun. And in the games, they're smuggling guns. Him and Tess are smuggling guns. But in this show, it's like, oh, we're trying to sell a car battery instead. It just feels so deliberate. Not only that, but it's like the good guys here in this situation with Tess and Joel, they were way more edgy in the game. You actually see Tess kill a guy because of not getting their guns and money back, and she was pretty savage. And she's more bark and no bite now so far from what we've seen. They don't want to do something like that because they're scared to give a little edge to the good guys. And I feel like the characters are especially so much better in the game than in the show.
I've seen that complaint around, the idea that she's making breakfast for him, she's sort of fixes his watch, but you understand that
she's the big spoon in bed. And he's the little
fuck,
spoon.
Right.
No, this is her daughter. This is just
Well, the
Joel's
daughter
daughter.
at first, and then Tess.
Sorry,
but like
Tess
was the
though,
big
yeah.
spoon.
I mean,
yeah.
it's a relationship I really appreciate because of the fact that he's clearly hardcore. He makes it clear with his work. He wants to do all the work himself. He wants to keep the money split between him, and then he says, by extension, I don't even want to split it with the brother. It's already setting up how much Joel wants to make sure he takes care of his own. In this case, it would be him and his daughter, and obviously as the games go on, it'll be him and Ellie. It extends to Tess, extends here and there, but he's very focused on his job, right? So his daughter gets his watch fixed. It's supposed to be an idea about how he doesn't focus on any smaller or littler things. But when this all kicks off, her playful authority over her dad is gone. He controls everything, and he tells her like exactly what to do, even to the point of possibly shouting at her. This exact kind of relationship I would expect, where when everything is fine, you can say to your dad, like, You're an idiot if you don't have your vitamin C. He's like, oh yeah, that's cute. But as soon as a zombie turns up, he's like, get the fuck behind me right now. And he'll like grab the wrench, knock the thing out in front of her, and tell her, look, I have to kill. When he's like, this isn't the person you know. She's gone. Like, I had to do what I did. We have to go. Stuff like that. I thought he did a pretty good job of it.
I think he did in that initial section. I kind of agree with Melanie in the sense of when you jump forward in time. And you see him, he seems to have less agency than he had in the game, because I always got the impression in the game that he was a joint operative in that gun running enterprise that he had going with Tess. Whereas in the show, it kind of feels like he's just like going through the motions day to day of working, and like Tess kind of makes all the strategic decisions. And it's a weird kind of change in dynamic, I suppose. And I'm going off my knowledge of the game, which is a few years old now, but I always got the sense that Joel had a lot more going on in terms of like his own decision making abilities. And even in this, right? See when he loses his shit at the end of the episode and he beats that guard to death. That should have played out as a shocking moment for Ellie, who's watching it, as like, oh my god, this guy's just beat a man to death. But what it plays out in the TV show is he lost his cool, like just completely like beat a man savagely to death because he was no longer in control of himself. It didn't seem like even a conscious tactical decision. It was just, I've lost my mind because I'm having a flashback of what happened to my daughter. Yeah. And she's watching it, instead of in horror and shock of watching a man die, she's watching like, yeah, that's what you should have done. You know, she's not even like showing any emotion. And it creates a strange dynamic between those characters that I wouldn't have expected in a situation like that.
I will say, not a fan of the performance she gives in the first reaction to him beating the guy up. I wish I could send a picture to you because I'm looking at it right now. And
it looks like she's encouraging him.
I don't know what emotion they're trying to sell to me. If I can send you the image, because we can put it up on screen and kind of judge it.
This kind of ties into what I said earlier. Like, I'm not a fan of this actress. Like,
no.
I don't know.
Can't make up my mind if she's just really like playing it close to her chest, or if she's just not good at acting.
I don't like her either.
Right? But like this, I'm willing to give her a couple more episodes to decide. But this scene where I'm very into him, like wailing on this guy for reasons of obviously referencing back to what happened with his daughter. But then her reaction, she like slides in from the side, and she kind of looks engaged or enticed by it. And it's just like, what are you trying to sell to me right now?
Yeah, there you can see it. Like,
oh my god, it's 50% off in the shoe shop.
I don't know. Like, that's what I mean. It was a weird one. I think his second reaction is a little better, where she just looks a bit like shocked.
It's jarring too, because Ellie was such a smarty pants with Joel, which makes sense. That's fine. But then with Tess, she's just like all agreeable, like, oh, okay, all right, whatever you say, a type attitude. And it's like, wouldn't she be? Why not make her consistent with both of them? But it just seems to be a pattern in the show. It's like none of the female characters respect Joel at all. But they'll respect each other.
Well, yeah. Remember in the
How
hallway
does Tess disrespect Joel?
She
Tess?
doesn't.
No, it's not
she,
so much.
Well, she does. She when she goes to discuss the matter with him, she literally explains what it is before he's even said anything. Just turns around and makes her own decision.
Yeah.
Where was this? What was that?
This was in the corridor after Bob and his henchman had been killed.
Well, she
And
Well,
Marlene's
but
like, I need you to
think-
take Ellie
Yeah.
and
I think they did reach a kind of mutual decision there because Joel did like seem amenable to what they were suggesting, but it was like Tess seemed to
But-
have the deciding vote on this one, and she
Right.
spoke for him. Which I don't know.
And then he
I don't know how that played out in the game, but I feel
Right.
like it was slightly different.
He even looks at he looks at Tess at some point, just like, what do we do now? What do we do now, Tess? It's like he's just looking for her authority, and that's just not the dynamic that they had in the game.
Is that bad?
Yes, it is.
Why?
I don't think that Tess should just be Miss Boss Lady in this situation. They're supposed to be equals working together. They both were hot-headed, edgy, like strong-willed people. And so
But this
taking that
is-
dynamic and turning him into like this passive,
Because they seem
just
very
super
cooperative
agreeable,
with each other.
and then she's just calling all the shots. No, that's not nearly as cool as how the game portrayed it.
in
for
the
me.
game, they're not in a relationship. It's ambiguous.
Right.
It's not, they're not in a firm relationship. It's implied that something has happened with them. Now, whether that's an ongoing thing or whether or not it was something that happened a while ago and now it's not happening, but it was ambiguous. And so it actually kind of makes, because if we're playing by the game's rules for the next episode, Tess, in theory, has about 10 minutes left.
Yes, exactly.
And then she's done. And when that bit happens in the game, it's actually pretty heart-wrenching because of the ambiguity of the relationship, because it's not absolute. You, as the player, are given the decision to make up in your own mind if there was more to them, and Joel having to let her go right now is really kind of tough, because he you know, whether or not he would prefer to stay and have a last stand with her, but he can't because of Ellie. And so
Well,
I
it's
think
more-
it makes
even-
that scene much more impactful.
Well, I think
It's-
even if whether or not you know that there's a romantic relationship in the game, you can at least infer that there's a close relationship there, either friendship or romantic.
Sure.
It almost doesn't matter too much. It's the fact that like she means something to Joel in the game, and so leaving her behind and losing her at an early stage like that is a tough thing for him to have to cope with, and then being saddled with Ellie simultaneously, it puts a lot of strain on him as a character. So I think that's fine. Like it doesn't. I don't mind the fact that they expand on their relationship a little bit in the TV
Well,
show.
I would go as far as saying that confirms that they had more of a connection, and that might actually make her death more impactful. I don't know
Yeah,
yet.
I'd
We'll have to
imagine
wait
it
and see.
would.
But I'd also go as far as saying when she comes back, if you remember when she's getting beaten up, the worry Robert and his men have is Joel. They're like, listen, we can get rid of you, we can do sort of you, but that friend of yours
Well,
is
she
going to come
even
for us.
says they're terrified of you, Joel.
Show,
Yeah.
don't tell.
But,
But she needs to tell him that. That's an important thing for him
they're
to
saying
realize
that
from
to
her.
her.
Joel's a different character in the game. He's much more assertive
Yep.
in the game.
They're
In this,
saying
he's so
that's
passive.
why.
So when you're a passive character and you're saying, "Oh, we're really frightened of Joel," and that character is not displaying what they're telling us.
We just
I
seems to
don't
be
know.
I
I
more
don't
don't-
think
I
it was
don't
very
personally
passive
buy
when
it.
he beat a man to death. I don't think
Yeah.
that was
Well,
passive.
that was a trigger mechanism because of flashback to his daughter.
We've only seen one episode. We have no idea what else he may do to whatever people. We
Oh,
haven't
we-
seen it yet.
well,
Right,
don't.
we're only judging the one episode at this
That's what I'm
point,
saying.
though,
I
yeah.
have references to support that he could go nuts and kill people, and it seems to me that Robert said the only reason he didn't want to let Tess go was because he's afraid of what Joel might do.
Joel clearly has a reputation for being quite savage.
And then
I
she
think,
has to calm
uh,
Joel down in the conversation, and she says, we'll get something back. We'll sort it out." And then Joel says, "No, we need the fucking battery. I need to get to my brother." And then she goes, "Okay, fine. We'll try." And like that to me doesn't sound like he's taking her orders. That sounds like they're working together.
I think what might have made him, what might have been more useful to build him up as a more intimidating character was, particularly during that confrontation with the soldier just outside the perimeter, was rather than have him snap as a kind of emotional response to like having a traumatic flashback, was to have it be more of a conscious decision on his part of, I know that you're going to report this. I know that there's not really a way I can talk my way out of this situation. The only logical solution is I'm going to have to kill you. I think that would make him a bit more calculating. and a bit more intimidating because of that, because he's not ruled by emotion in that case. He's a stone cold killer, because that's the kind of man he's had to become based on the the role he's taken on, the job that he does. But I mean, that's just my thought on that.
I think it'd be more in
particular
line
scene.
with the character.
I want to hear what he has to say about that moment in the next episode. A lot of how I feel about this episode in terms of how things get contextualized could be dependent on future stuff, but I still think this is a good start for what we've seen of the characters too. As someone who played the game and quite likes the first one, fucking hates the second one.
I think, hopefully it's going to pan out fine from a dramatic point of view. I guess it sets a slightly worrying precedent that it seems like she's totally on board with him inflicting this kind of violence based on, I don't know, it might just be the actress's performance and what she's given in that scene, but it seems like she's all right with what he did. And it seems like he's the one who lost his cool. And I don't want to create a dynamic where, like, essentially he's the weak one emotionally throughout this and she's the strong one. Where I think the game developed a much more interesting arc where, like, they gradually change over the course of the story, where he's very intimidating and very gruff, and like he's just been put in charge of this child that he doesn't want to have to look after, and she's almost like resentful of him, but she's also kind of frightened of him at the same time.
But you can have Joel be that and still have him be like really emotionally reserved or even emotionally broken.
It depends. Yeah, you could in theory. I guess it just depends how it's implemented. Because I think if you have a situation where he's shown to regularly, like, say, have big emotional outbursts like that, where he attacks people and kills them, and she's the one who's essentially more in control of her emotions and seems to be, not intimidated necessarily by seeing a man kill another man right in front of her eyes. I don't know. It doesn't seem like such a good dynamic to work with.
Mm-hmm.
I think IMDb has Tess down for 5 of the 10 episodes. But we
That's
do
what
know
I saw, yeah.
we do know that they are going to be working flashbacks in, and it looks like episode 3 is going to be essentially a flashback episode of Bob. So it's how they utilize the character of Tess. But
I have a suspicion that they're going to have her in longer than she was in the game.
Joel wasn't
it looks like she's in for a few episodes when she should barely not even make next episode hardly.
Yeah.
Why should she
think-
not make this? Why should she not be in 5?
Because in the game she dies early.
So she
I don't
should.
think
So we can't even do it because she died in the
I'm
game
not
early.
saying they
so-
can't. I'm saying if
You're saying-
according to story, if they were going to stay on track with the story, that would be the case. But it looks like they're changing it, which could still work. I'm not saying it's automatically going to be a bad thing, but I am saying it's different for sure.
I think it worked well in the game because, as I said at the start, the game starts off at a frenetic pace, and you're like, oh my God, his daughter's dead. Then it's 20, I think it's 15 years later in the game, maybe 20. It's 15 or 20 years later, and Joel is not an emotional character.
Right.
That is not how he is at all. He's a stoic character, and the fact that he gets this job with Tess, and then Tess is immediately taken out of the game, again throws you off kilter, and now he's lost somebody he trusts and supports. Is a support network to him. She's gone, and all he's got left is this little girl. And I think it adds a much better dynamic because he's completely out of his element now. And he doesn't want to bond with Ellie in the game. He doesn't want to bond with her. He's got no interest in that because he looks at her and he sees a girl that's roughly the same age as his daughter who died. And that's painful enough to him. So he doesn't want to form this bond. But they go through so much together without anyone else, so much together that it forces them together as a relationship develops between them. And then that relationship, that trust which is suddenly built up, turns into a paternal relationship. And that's the beauty of The Last of Us, of how it's such a simple but well-told story about family, about reconnecting. About protecting, your in this case, his surrogate daughter, as she turns out to be. Tess being there for too long, I fear will impact the relationship development between Joel and Ellie.
Could it have a positive impact?
Well, I mean, only time's going to tell on that.
Right.
That's why I want to
I-
wait.
I
But it
because I'm
works
not-
so
I think
well in
you-
the,
'cause
in
we
the
don't know
game.
yet.
Yeah, I think what you end up with is a cleaner narrative in the game when you've just got Joel and Ellie together, because
Right.
the relationship between the two of them is the emotional heart of the game, and I assume it's going to be with the show as well. And so the longer you have a third element in there, like a third character, the more it kind of, it doesn't impede it, but it stops it. You get into that point of exploring just that relationship between those two mismatched characters. And so I don't know. It seems to make sense to kill Tess off in the next episode.
She
get
might.
her out of the way and like make
For all
way
we
for
know.
that. And yeah, I mean, it could be that that's what they do, and the rest of her appearances are just flashbacks to
Yeah.
flesh out her relationship with Joel. In which case, fair enough, I guess.
I just think we should judge Tess's involvement once we've seen it.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
that's
especially
all
now
we
that
can
they
do.
seem to
Really,
be
we're
more
just
of a
we're throwing
relationship.
around ideas, I suppose.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think we just have valid fears of Tess hijacking Joel's story too, because we do see hijacking of male character stories by their female side characters that turn into the main character. We've been seeing a lot more of that. And so I think it's a valid concern that maybe they're trying to do that in this case, but who knows? Maybe we'll be pleasantly surprised. Maybe they'll make it work, because Tess is a cool character, and I think most everybody loved Tess in the game. But yeah, we're just a little worried about how that could play out.
Well, I guess part of the thing is, like, is she cool in the game because you only get to see her for a short time? Like,
Well,
you're
exactly.
left wondering, other things, like we might have wanted to know more about her. It's
Right.
the unanswered questions that perhaps make characters
Or-
like that interesting. Like
Flip
Boba
reverse,
Fett
you could have
from
outstayed a
Star
welcome.
Wars. Who would ever wanted to see a TV show about him? But like, we got it, and like, it didn't really like
Right.
Well,
increase
the
our
idea of a
liking
Boba
of that
Fett
character.
show is great.
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, we all know that, Rex. We all love Boba Fett.
I'm
but,
pretty sure we complimented the idea back in the day, real long ago. But oh god, we're going to
Yeah.
regret that shit.
how times have changed. I was going to say as well about in the games, the fungus that infects people is just like an airborne spore. And so, you go into buildings and stuff like that, you have to wear like a respirator to protect yourself from it. Now it's this weird thing that just kind of comes out of people's throats, and it's like functionally it's just like a zombie.
Let's flag
plague.
us.
Well, yeah,
Essentially.
I was actually going to ask. I assume this time it gets everyone because it's in the food supply. Everyone's food is simultaneously being hit with all like the fungus is spread in that way, and that's how it gets everybody all around the world to some degree. And then I can't remember if that was how it did it in the game along with the spores, but they have wiped out the spores in this, which I don't think is a good idea. But I'm waiting to see if they can justify that choice. Because yeah, of course, it reduces a lot of the dangerous aspects. It'll have to change a lot of bigger payoffs in the game, as everyone's familiar with. And yeah, like the zombies themselves right now, they're sort of, I don't know if the early versions are those runners with weird shit in their mouth, but we've seen from the trailer we're going to get the ones we're familiar with.
Right.
Hopefully,
So-
yeah. I mean, we saw one briefly like underground that was like like fused into the wall somehow. So
Yeah.
yeah, we kind of want to see, I guess, more of that. What was the other thing as well? It was like, yeah, the revelation about Ellie being immune to it. Like, that was quite a big revelation in the game, and I think it came a lot later, didn't it? But, like, here, it's just kind of blurted out in the middle of an action sequence, and I don't know, presumably there's a reason for that, but it felt like it ruined quite a big, like, revelation that should have come later on.
Well, I
didn't
think
like
the
way
next
it was just
episode will
thrown in.
probably begin with that discussion of how come the little reader, when you got tagged by the reader, how come it was red?
Yeah. Well, she explained, like, Joel hears her explaining it. It's like, I
Right.
got bitten, like, 3 weeks ago, and,
Yeah.
like, I haven't turned into one of them. So, like,
Oh,
she's
well, that's
straight
just
up
to
saying,
stop
like,
them from executing it, right? They're
Yeah,
gonna
right,
want more
right
than
on the
that.
spot. Yeah, because they had to
But, I mean-
leave. There was the panic in the scene where the guy's dead and they have to go, and the people are coming to get him, and they have to leave.
but what she's saying is true. Like, that's
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
happened to
Yeah,
her.
no,
Yeah.
yeah,
Which
yeah.
is what she should be saying. In
They'll
that
get
scenario.
they'll get more on that in next episode for sure.
That's what I'd be saying.
I wouldn't be surprised
Well,
if the end
I mean,
of the next
totally, yeah,
episode
but, like-
is how Tess dies. I wouldn't be surprised if they did that. The payoff of the end of the next episode is Tess' death. Even with those 5 episodes in IMDb, that could be explained by flashbacks. Could also not.
Okay. Yeah.
Not sure. Not sure.
I guess.
From IMDb could be wrong, but that's
Yeah,
what
true.
that's
I
what
don't
they're
know
saying.
I don't know if this is as well the writers just acknowledging that most of the people that are watching this probably know the games at least and know what happens. So like it's not going to be a revelation for them. But yeah, I just felt like
Well,
the sort of thing that I would have rather left until later in the story.
That's the thing, though, right? Like the first episode, they're trying to hook. From what I heard, they extended this episode to have the Joel and Ellie connection, so that they want people to realize what the hook of the show is: post-apocalypse, zombie infection. This guy lost his daughter a while ago. He's got a lot of almost PTSD to relate to that. A lot of issues that are going to come out, and then there's this little girl who's infected but not a monster. That's the end. And it's just like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Okay, yeah, all right.
Yeah.
Let's see where this goes.
Now, one positive thing I want to say though is the brother Tommy. I liked him way better in the show than in the game. Even though he plays like a lot more of a side character type role, I thought he was great.
Coming out with that hot take. I think a lot of people hated him for what I saw, but I'm not sure.
Really?
I don't know.
I think I just have opposite opinions on what most people do then, because I thought he was amazing in the show. I really liked him in the show. And in the game, I didn't dislike him in the game, but he just didn't stand out to me in the game.
Oh, anyone else? I thought he was fine.
I thought Diego Luna was. That's not Tommy.
Yeah,
not
I mean,
even
he definitely
remotely-
looks a lot different. He is a lot different. I just happen to like him in the new version of him. Yeah.
Did not work.
All right
for me.
then.
I don't think the casting in general is good. I don't think
I
Bella
agree.
Ramsey as Ellie's terrible casting. I'm not sold on Pedro Pascal, Diego Luna, Big Netty no.
I
Tess
did like
no.
how Pedro Pascal didn't age a day in 20
Yes,
years.
Hey, they added gray to
a little
his
bit of
beard,
salt.
all
A
right?
little bit of salt in there.
And the collapsed skyscrapers got more growth on them in the course of that 20 years. They aged worse than he did. It's been interesting just sitting here listening to the conversation because, again, having not played the game,
Right.
I can tell that there are some, really interesting story beats that people can invoke, and you're very keen to see where it goes in reference to that game or how it compares to that game. That's all interesting. I watched episode 1 and I didn't care. That was my main problem. I got the hook, which Morla mentioned, which is the only thing that I really took away from the entire post-apocalypse sequence. It was the only thing that I sort of looked up from editing like version 15 of my Velma video. That's how disinterested I was. The hook, fine. I can see that they could do something with that. But for the rest of it, I mean, we've come up in an era where we've had, season 15 or whatever it is of The Walking Dead. We're not very far removed from 28 Days Later. We've had a lot of post-apocalyptic, bleak, zombie apocalypse style, even not zombie apocalypse, but bleak post-apocalyptica. And I watched episode 1 and I just tuned out basically the middle third because it was just more of that.
Yeah.
And without knowledge of where it might be going or where the characters might be going or what they might do or what the relationships might become or what the comparison will be, I didn't find it very interesting at all. And I'm
What did you
wondering...
think of the opening sort of sequence up to the death of the daughter?
That's probably my favorite bit. It's the only bit that sticks in the mind, but that's because it reminded me so much of other things that I could have been watching. So, like, I love that slow, passive build-up from the Day of the Triffids, and I like it in Shaun of the Dead, as I've mentioned. I think that's a really interesting thing. I think that was defeated. The object of it was defeated because the mystery that they were trying to build up had already been revealed in the pre-introduction. But that sort of, I think that was a good introduction to the characters. I think the death of the daughter did... it was affecting, it worked, it was paid off when you have Joel lose his mind a little bit later on. That, I think, all worked. That was good. That was the only bit I was consciously sort of very invested in. The rest of it, it was on TV. I watched it. I thought, yeah, it's high production value. The writing isn't abysmal. The characterization isn't terrible. Do I know who any of these people are by the end of this episode? Not really, with the exception of Joel and, no, basically just him. And do I really care where they're going? Not at the moment. It's not to say, I mean, I will carry on with it. I think there were a couple of interesting threads, not least that hook relationship with him and Ellie, which could be interesting. I do want to find out more about the world they're living in. The problem is everything they've so far told me about the world they're living in is something I've seen about 50 times before in different media. So wasn't very intriguing. But there's enough in there to get me to come back to it. I'm just not sold on it yet.